All right, you pilots, can flying drones get you into trouble? We're going to find out on this episode of In the Hangar. Hello, welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Dan Milliken.
And I'm Bailey Ward. This episode of In the Hangar is brought to you by all of our incredible sponsors, all of which are going to be linked below. Dan, who do we have here today?
We are talking to some drone experts. We have not covered a lot of drone in this channel, although drones is why I got into aviation.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Joining me is Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, and Jonathan. Guys,
Pleasure.
thanks. So you guys are drone experts. You're an operator who does a whole bunch of stuff. Adrian, there are so many letters after your name as far as all the stuff you do. Tell us a little bit about your background.
You bet. So I'm the lead drone pro for the FAA safety team, also the president of the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, as well as some other organizations, and we specialize in commercial Part 107 operations.
Okay, and then Jonathan, tell us your creds.
So my background is actually in mechanical engineering, and I started building and flying drones back in about 2014, as well as ground robotics. And then a couple years ago, I got into camera work and whatnot, and I saw that people were putting cameras on top of drones, so I was like, hey, why not? You know, that's kind of my bread and butter. So started putting cameras on top of drones, flying as fast as I could, anywhere I could, legally. And yeah, now it's
So
kind of a paid gig.
Are you doing mostly custom build jobs like this?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, half and half. And this drone in particular, it's built by Quad Standard Labs, a guy named Todd down in Austin, and then I waterproofed it with an E6000 coating, so I can fly underwater, out of water.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, which leads to one of the very first questions that I have. So, in my business, I run a film and video production company. And doing the drones, when it all started 10 years ago, is why I got, at that time there was no 107, and the FAA was enforcing on people that were making money with drones not being commercial pilots, and they wanted you to get a commercial pilot's license, which was pretty much unattainable and certainly not in any kind of time frame. But then they offered a stopgap until they got to 107, which was an exemption from the commercial rule called the 333 if you got any level of pilot's license. Well, I always wanted to learn to fly, so that was my excuse.
There you go.
So as they will say, oh, it's for business, let's go and get a pilot's license. So with that, my company, we do commercial drone work, and we're getting shots. And I do a lot of construction industry. And right now I've got a construction client that's building right next to a Class D airport. As a matter of fact, their most important intersection is right off the approach end of the runway. And so I want to run, I don't need high, 100 feet. Even less, and when I do my off-the-shelf DJI Mavic 2 or whatever, I can go into the software and get my authorization. I can't get the stupid drone to unlock. What is going on?
And that's a great point, and DJI's heard a lot of these concerns, and they've streamlined the effort. So basically what you would do now is enter your phone number, and you'd get an SMS message from DJI, and you would claim that you have approval to fly that area, and it will automatically unlock your drone.
Well, how will it unlock my Mavic? So I'm sitting there trying to get it going. I get the SMS, but how does that, will that go to how does it get to the brain of the Mavic to unlock?
That's a great question. So you would have to essentially create some type of network, cellular network, so you can bind your controller with the phone, and that will be able to communicate with DJI and unlock your drone.
Okay. So I guess once I actually get through all that, I sat down trying to figure that out, and it just, it was such a mess, I gave up and hired a helicopter and got my aerials. So it just was easier. But then I guess you could go, instead of getting off the stock DJI stuff that has all these locks and stuff in place that they have to for the marketplace because of people doing crazy stuff, you could build a drone.
Yep.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so with great power comes great responsibility, as you know. So although my drone is completely unlocked, so to speak, my brain is my locking mechanism. So I have to make sure that I'm permitted by whatever city that I'm flying in. If they require permits for film, have to make sure that the place that I'm flying, specifically the company, approves that. Then I have to be approved by the FAA to fly in their airspace and make sure that I'm maintaining an altitude ceiling that is below whatever is permitted in that area. On top of that, there's insurances that come into play as well. But yeah, it is a lot for sure. And people that are coming from the more hobbyist side of things, for like the Mavics, for example.
Right.
A lot of this stuff, they don't even know to look. It's
Right.
kind of, out of sight, out of mind for them. And I think that's a huge disservice that the FAA specifically has done to drone pilots, is not giving them the available information in an easily packaged way to digest it. They think that because it says Part 107 pilot, that people like me and other people have flown their whole lives, like a lot of pilots grew up with, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, I definitely find that to be true even for myself. I'm a Part 107 drone licensed pilot, and a lot of it is just so confusing to me. So I'm like really scared to just whip out my drone and try to go do something fun for film or whatever, just because of things like that you just said.
Yeah.
Well, but as a 107 was created just for the commercial requirements. If you want to go out for fun, that was under a different part, 103, but now, Adrian, you're telling me that they've totally rearranged everything.
Yeah, so the FAA made an effort to streamline and, make it a little less confusing. They've created a dedicated portal online. If you go to faa.gov/drone zone, you can find all the information you need there to educate folks on keeping our national airspace as safe as possible.
Safe is definitely a big deal. I've actually had one encounter where I was flying with a friend of mine. This was way before I even considered becoming a pilot, where we literally saw a drone right off the tip of our wing flying out of an airport. So, safety is definitely a big deal, and I think a lot of drone pilots and just people in general fall short of that.
And that's why the FAA is starting to promote their remote ID initiative. So essentially, remote ID is a way to identify drones. Remote ID is essentially a digital license plate.
Well, yes, and that's really helpful, but I feel like it's almost like the law-abiding people who will go through that process aren't the people that are the problem.
Absolutely.
So, to some degree, I don't know that really solves anything, does it?
Well, the FAA is severely understaffed and underfunded, as we all know, but I think they're taking the initiative because that's going to be the next step for us to achieve beyond visual line of sight, flight over people, et cetera. So it's a chance, but we're not sure how successful it's going to be.
All right, now what about industry, Amazon, and everybody else coming in, starting to do drone deliveries and that kind of stuff? How does that affect our airspace and drone safety?
We actually have a lot of drone delivery happening here in North Texas. Google Wing, for example, is flying out of Frisco, Little Elm. We have Flytrex and a couple of other companies. So there's definitely an initiative for a drone delivery, and they're in their infant phase right now. So we'll see how it unfolds.
All right. Through all of this, I'm thinking, maybe one of my problems with, off-the-shelf stuff for the professional world is to forget that and start building my own. That's what I'm really eyeing. How easy was it to build your own drone?
I would say, how deep are your pockets?
Oh, really? So where you can go and buy a complete Mavic 2 for $1,500 or the Mavic 3 for $3,000, what would it take to build something comparable?
So I always tell people who ask me, hey, I want to get into FPV, like what is it going to take? And I'll tell them your first initial upfront cost is not going to be that big. You can get everything you need to go to get all set up for about $1,200 to $1,500 all squared away. Where the expensive part comes is maintaining these things. With them having limited gyro stabilization, sometimes not even any gyro stabilization, is all manual control. We don't have sensors on these types of quads, so if you're going towards a building full speed and you don't let off the stick or make counter adjustments, you're going into that building.
Which in the early days of drone, I will admit to crashing more than one that way.
Yep. Yep.
What's funny is that 10 years ago when I got a big octocopter with 16-inch wooden props, and before I ever even flew that, I bought a drone simulator program with a controller on the computer, and it was, when you have no of the auto kind of stabilization features that are in the off-the-shelf, it's really hard to fly a drone.
Yep, it's like going in a Ferrari on your 16th birthday, like mashing that pedal down.
Yeah. Well, very good. Okay, if there was one thing that you would want the pilot audience to know about drones, what would it be? I'll start with you, Jonathan.
I would say just take it as slow as you possibly can. Don't try and rush any of this stuff. When you start rushing this stuff, you get in over your head. both in equipment and in the legality of everything. Really take your time to do your research. YouTube is a great resource for all of that. There are plenty of great pilots who talk about this kind of stuff, both pilots for drones and airplanes alike. So that would be my one thing.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend starting off with the simulator and then gradually invest maybe in a $25 to $50 drone just so you can figure things out before you go with a off-the-shelf $1,500 to $2,000 solution. Step by step, you can get there. It just takes a little time.
And is it still true that, because I know that a lot of professional pilots, especially like the ATP guys, were concerned that if they were to buy and operate a drone and do something wrong, that they would lose their livelihood. And I know that in the past, the FAA really separated the 107 from any other license. And so if you did violate something on the 107, they could not go after your ATP. Is that still the case?
I'm not exactly sure on that.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's progressed along the way, but the FAA is having a hard time enforcing these. Like I said earlier, they're severely understaffed, and hopefully we can get some more resources dedicated to the FAA.
All right, very cool. All right, well, thank you guys for coming, sharing with us about kind of the state of the drone industry. Bailey, you ready to go build your own drone? And
Yeah, let's do it. I just got to figure out how deep my pockets are.
well, you're finishing high school, about to go to college, so it's about how deep you're at, because you're.
My parents.
All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and do please check out our sponsors. These guys that sponsor us, every single one of them is run by a pilot, so they're in the aviation family, and we like to support our family. Supporting them helps support us. And, we thank you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
In the hangar.